Tonight, the big freeze. Temperatures plummet to minus 15.6 Celsius overnight, heaping misery on those already struggling to keep warm.
It is harder for older people like my mum who's 93, can't go out because it's too slippy underfoot and so on.
I'm sitting in the house with my hat and got a pair of socks and that on, it's absolutely frozen.
As the icy weather brings some travel to a standstill, I'm at Edinburgh Waverley ahead of a month of misery on the railways as workers vote to strike.
In sport, we speak to Celtic signing Alistair Johnston on his move to Parkhead.
And we meet the 6-year-old hailed a hero for calling 999 after his mum collapsed. I'm Kellyanne Woodland in Glasgow.
And I'm Emma Cameron in Edinburgh. This is the STV News at 6.
Good evening. Snow and ice are causing widespread travel disruption across Scotland after temperatures plunged to minus 15.6 Celsius overnight. The coldest night of the year so far saw heavy snow and ice cover the country, leading to severe travel disruption for airports, railways and motorways.
Some schools closed for the day and people struggled with freezing temperatures as the longest yellow weather warning ever issued by the Met Office is extended until Thursday, as Caroline Lewis reports.
Today seems like a winter wonderland, but last night temperatures in parts of Scotland dropped well below freezing. Some headed outside to make the most of the freezing temperatures.
Yeah, I mean, I'm enjoying the blue skies and the crispness of it, but it is harder for older people like my mum who's 93, can't go out because it's too slippy underfoot and so on.
I'm sitting in the house with my hat and got a pair of socks and that on, it's absolutely frozen. It's fair to put it on, you know what I mean?
You're not putting your heating on as much now, you know what I mean, you're aware what you need. But this morning I put it on for an hour.
Yeah, just enjoying it, as long as it's not too slidey.
But in the depths of a cost of living crisis, the cold weather brings concerns for welfare. This church is just one of the places opening its doors to give people somewhere to escape the cold.
I'm hugely concerned for folks in the community. We've been aware for a long time of people choosing to, whether they put heat in their homes or eat, and we can imagine it going not just the opposite way, but in a way that people are not able to afford both. I'm trustee of a food bank and our numbers have skyrocketed over the past few weeks. And I think this is only the beginning of the problems that we're going to face.
Well, the snow may make the scenery look picture perfect, but temperatures in parts of central Scotland got down to below minus 10 last night, and the cold snap's due to continue throughout the week. In fact, it's still so cold here in New Lanark that the water in the river behind me has started to freeze. The news this morning that 3 young boys had tragically died when they fell into an icy lake in the West Midlands is a stark reminder of just how dangerous the cold weather, and in particular cold water, can be.
You think you can self-rescue, but you can't. Your body reacts totally different. Your muscles contract, the blood stops flowing. In some cases, cardiac arrest can come on. So, yeah, it really changes the way your body reacts normally, and that's why we need to encourage people to keep away from that dangerous situation and reduce the risks to themselves.
It was residents in Aberdeenshire and the Highlands that endured the coldest night, with temperatures plummeting to below minus 15 degrees.
Tonight and Thursday night look as if they're probably going to be the coldest. Could get temperatures down to minus 20 or a little bit lower in some spots. And also tonight, central and southern parts of the country, we're starting off from a much lower figure than we were this time yesterday evening. At the moment, we're sitting around minus 5, minus 6 parts of Renfrewshire, around the Lothians, Lanarkshire. So we're starting off very low, which means tonight could be quite a bit colder, even in these areas during tonight. Next week, early on next week, it does look as if it gets a little bit milder, but then it starts to turn colder once again.
The cold weather caused chaos up and down the country. This was Gatwick Airport last night, brought to a standstill by snow. Hundreds of flights were cancelled. Some people were even forced to sleep on the floor of Glasgow Airport overnight. The freezing temperatures are set to last until at least the weekend, making this the coldest December Scotland has seen in a decade.
Well, Caroline has been out in Lanarkshire for us all day. What have conditions been like there?
Well, it's just gone 6 p.m, so it's pretty early in the evening still, but at the last check, it was already down to about -8 here, so pretty cold and only set to get colder during the night. In the last hour, the gritters have been doing the rounds, going up and down the roads to make sure everybody here is safe and can get in and out safely if they need to. But there's obviously concern, particularly about rural communities, that they'll get into difficulty or get cut off altogether because, as we heard in the packet in that report, that the cold weather is going to be here for another few days yet, with that Met Office warning lasting until Thursday and potentially the cold weather lasting even longer than that.
So Caroline, how are communities like the one you're in coping?
Well, obviously, there's a huge amount of concern. We already know that people are making difficult decisions between heating and eating, and that's only going to be exacerbated by the cold. The food bank I spoke to earlier in Lanark said that a lot of the people that they're seeing coming into them don't even have the means to heat up the food that they're being offered. And with people already at that point, the cost of living crisis is really going to bite hard in the week ahead. But we are seeing lots more of those community spaces, the warm banks opening up, and people are really being encouraged to use them. If you're at home and you can't afford to put your heating on or you are cold, go and find somewhere where you can warm up.
OK, Caroline in New Lanark, many thanks for that. Well, now, the cold weather led to delays and cancellations on Scotland's rail network today too. Trains at Haymarket came to a halt due to icicles on overhead lines. But Scotland's railways are set for even more disruption this week as thousands of members of the RMT union will walk out following a long-running dispute over pay with Network Rail.
The operator Network Rail have rejected the latest pay offer, and from tomorrow only a dozen routes will be running across Fife, the Central Belt and the Borders, with services ending at 6:30 p.m. Well, our political reporter Laura Alderman sent this report from Edinburgh Waverley Station.
Services running in and out of here tonight are going relatively smoothly at the moment, but come this time tomorrow, the picture will be vastly different. As Network Rail workers have confirmed tonight, they'll stage 2 48-hour walkouts beginning tomorrow and Wednesday, and then again on Friday and Saturday, although we're being told to expect disruption on either side of those dates. So effectively, it's the whole week that's being impacted here. Now, this long-running dispute involves Network Rail workers, but because they do safety critical roles, essential roles, it means that many of ScotRail services can't run, bringing the whole thing to a grinding halt, of course, on one of the busiest weeks for travellers in the run-up to Christmas.
I was due to go through to Glasgow airport tomorrow, but I've ended up having to hire a car because it's an extra expense and what the weather's going to be like on the roads, so it's going to be fantastic.
A bit stressful because I've got a flight tomorrow, so I had a train at 5, obviously it's been cancelled, so just waiting for the next one, so hopefully I can just get on the train to make the flight.
It doesn't give confidence to go back on the rail and certainty about travel though after COVID, when there's a push to get people to go back and do that.
It's just making it more and more difficult for people to have any sympathy for them in the long run. I'm not saying they don't deserve an improvement, but on the other hand, I'm not sure it's the right way to go about it.
It doesn't involve any ScotRail staff, but it is very frustrating for passengers and for our own staff. Everybody wants a resolution so that we can get back to having a normal service. Our advice to passengers over the coming days is please check before you travel, download the app or visit the website to see exactly which services are running.
Today, RMT union workers were voting in an online ballot on the latest pay offer that's been offered by Network Rail, an offer of 5%. But shortly before we came on air, we heard that those workers had voted overwhelmingly to reject that offer, meaning strikes will go ahead.
I would believe they're rejecting not so much on the pay, although pay is important, it's on the modernising maintenance, as they're laughingly calling it. Modernising maintenance to Network Rail in the UK government means to attack the terms and conditions and to slash the maintenance regime.
So at the moment, it doesn't look like there will be a breakthrough on this side of Christmas. The RMT have said the only way to break the stalemate over the pay deal is to have a direct meeting with the Prime Minister, Rishi Sunak. They've also planned more strikes from the 24th to the 27th of December, and again, first week of January, 4 dates that week, the 3rd, 4th, 6th and 7th. Now that's of course a time when many workers might be going back to work, back to their jobs, back to their homes after celebrating the Christmas period and of course New Year.
Laura Alderman with that report. Well, rail strikes are clearly going to continue for some time, but strikes by some NHS staff have been called off after Unison and Unite members voted to accept the Scottish Government's pay offer. The offer amounts to an average of 7.4%.
Other health unions have still to vote, with the Royal College of Nursing ballot due to close next week. Well, our political editor Colin Mackay was at Unison House in Glasgow today. Colin, how significant are these votes?
Well, Unison is the biggest health workers union in Scotland, and Unite is particularly strong among the Scottish Ambulance Service, and they have both accepted the Scottish Government's pay offer today. I think one thing that possibly makes it more significant is that Unison workers in Northern Ireland have been out on strike today, the first health workers to take to the picket line since 1999, and on Thursday the RCN members in England are due to go on strike. That's an action that has been suspended in Scotland while they put the Scottish Government's improved offer to their members, and today this is probably the first good news that the Health Secretary's had in quite a while.
So we had to keep negotiating. They pushed us to go further. We asked for compromise from them, and I'm pleased that through that negotiation, through that constructive engagement, round that table, we've managed to get to a pay deal which is clearly acceptable to the members. That's what we want. We want a pay deal that is accepted by our NHS members. We have that from two large, significant trade unions.
But Unison say that this isn't really a big win for the Scottish Government.
Well, I think it's over in the sense that the majority of our members have voted to accept the government's offer, but let's be absolutely clear. This isn't a win for government, this is a warning. A significant number of our members voted to reject the deal, and Humza Yousaf needs to come to the table on next year's pay with that firmly fixed in his mind.
Do you think that as the biggest health union, the first to actually agree to the deal, this will send a message to other unions as well?
Well, it's trade unions in Scotland work collaboratively together, and so I would hope that our membership is no really any different from other unions. I would hope that everybody will vote the same way and that we'll get into the next pay round before the turn of the year.
Now, we're also expecting to hear from the GMB union. Their ballot's due to close in the next couple of days. They're quite strong among paramedics. We're also expecting to hear this week from the Royal College of Midwives. Next week we will hear the results of the Royal College of Nursing ballot. And all this comes as the UK Cabinet met at Westminster today to consider bringing in the military to deal with paramedic and ambulance strikes down there.
OK, Colin, many thanks for that. A Libyan man is due to appear in court in the United States accused of making the bomb which blew up Pan Am Flight 103 over Lockerbie. 270 people were killed in the atrocity in 1988.
Abu Ajila Masood was detained by US officials 2 years after they announced charges against him. Our political correspondent Yoon Petrie reports.
It's almost exactly 34 years since Pan Am Flight 103 was brought down over Lockerbie. 270 people were killed just days before Christmas in 1988. Officials in the United States announced Libyan Abu Ajila Masood is now in custody, accused of making the bomb. Families of victims here believe any trial should not take place in the US.
The plane blew up over Scotland and came down on Scottish soil. So it is basically a Scottish affair. So it really hasn't that much legally to do with the Americans.
This man, responsible for killing Americans and many others.
The US Justice Department announced charges against Masood 2 years ago on the anniversary of the atrocity. Only one man has ever been convicted of the Lockerbie bombing. Abdul Basit al-Megrahi died in 2012. He'd been released from prison 3 years earlier after being diagnosed with cancer. The man who took the decision to free him says Masood has long been under suspicion.
Even when Gaddafi fell, there was a refusal by the factions that remained in Libya to release him. They might hate each other, but they didn't like the USA, and handing over one of their citizens to the USA would be viewed as treachery. So the surprise is they've got him, but not that he's involved.
The lawyer for Megrahi's family says any trial could have implications for their fight to clear his name.
Does it open the door on a potential further appeal for Megrahi? Because if the Americans and the Scottish authorities are now saying Masood's the bomber, Masood's the one who bought the clothes, you go, well, the whole case then collapses against Megrahi. It opens the door again on that. If it opens the door again on that, then the question arises for Mr. Masood, how was his confession extracted? He was in the custody of a warlord.
Scotland's top law officer, the Lord Advocate, has welcomed the arrest and is due to meet US officials next week. Ewan Petrie, STV News.
All right, let's take a look at other stories across Scotland now. And a health board has apologised unreservedly after a patient was left in an ambulance outside A&E for more than 15 hours yesterday. NHS Ayrshire and Arran says it's experiencing extremely high demand, with some ambulances diverted from Kilmarnock's Crosshouse Hospital to Ayr on Sunday due to a lack of beds.
Meanwhile, the Scottish Conservatives say NHS health boards should be punished for making patients wait. The party want to set maximum waiting times for treatment and have released their own plan for helping the NHS deal with pressures.
And J.K. Rowling is launching and funding what she calls a women-only centre in Edinburgh for survivors of sexual violence or abuse. Rape Crisis says while it welcomes any new service, support should also be available to trans and non-binary people. Ms Rowling has been a fierce critic of the Scottish Government's gender recognition bill. Now, he's one of Scotland's most high-profile criminal defence advocates. But tonight, Brian McConaughey, KC, is awaiting a verdict on his own behaviour. An independent panel have to decide if he's guilty of professional misconduct.
The allegations relate to text messages and an intimate photograph. He doesn't deny sending them to a woman, but claims it's a private matter and shouldn't be the subject of disciplinary action. Here's our senior reporter, Gordon Cree.
In the shadow of the Royal Mile, this is where the conduct of one of the country's most senior lawyers was being discussed today. A disciplinary panel convened by the Faculty of Advocates heard submissions about one of its most prominent members. It heard that in October 2020, on the day he was defending a man accused of rape, Brian McConaughey sent an intimate photograph from the toilets at the High Court in Livingston. He also sent messages making disparaging references to the head of the charity Rape Crisis Scotland. They referred to another senior lawyer having told him he'd have sex with Sandy Brindley. Mr McConaughey added that he might do so too, just to have something over her, but he wouldn't enjoy it.
I do not think that is a private matter. I think that is a really serious matter of professional misconduct, and I don't see how anyone given evidence in a rape trial, any vulnerable rape victim given evidence in a rape trial, can be comfortable with him being the person that cross-examines her.
Hearings like this are relatively unusual. Put simply, what went on in here today was advocates putting arguments against and in support of another advocate who wasn't here himself. The lawyer for the woman making the complaint says she'd never met Mr McConaughey at the time of receiving the messages and said the behaviour would be seen as serious and reprehensible by a competent and reliable advocate. Mr McConaughey's counsel argued the woman was in a relationship with him, saying, "We're concerned today with why anything two adults did in a personal sexual relationship is anything to do with the Faculty of Advocates." The panel, headed by former High Court Judge Lord Drummond Young, will consider the evidence and deliver its decision at a later date. Gordon Cree, STV News, Edinburgh.
Now to Ayrshire and beyond. A state-of-the-art space hub is set to bring almost 600 jobs to Prestwick when it opens in 2 years' time. The £83 million development will produce and test specialist satellites. It's expected to become a significant focal point for the Scottish and UK space sectors, as Vanessa Taff reports.
Prestwick is usually best known for this. But now spaceships and satellites could become the next new normal around these skies. This site has been earmarked as the new heart of Scotland's space race.
Being right next to the Prestwick Glasgow airport is also really appealing to us, and it positions us quite well. The company is building out what is truly a global satellite network, and one that will cater to customers around the world. And so it's a good place for us to launch all of that from, frankly.
Based in Prestwick International Aerospace Park, the development will cost £83 million. It's expected to create 575 jobs in engineering, design and manufacturing.
What we're really keen to do as well is use this as an opportunity to try and encourage young people to think of space and aerospace industry as a realistic career. Everybody thinks that to be in space you need to be a rocket scientist. You absolutely do not. For every job that supports a real high-end technical job, you'll need accountants, you'll need storekeepers, you'll need cleaners, you'll need catering staff.
Work is expected to lift off early next year. Vanessa Taff, STV News, Prestwick.
All right, time for all your sport now with Raman.
Get your fill of the action. STV Sports, sponsored by Papa John's Pizza.
Good evening. New Celtic signing Alistair Johnston says he's relishing the prospect of competing for the right-back slot. The Canadian international, who played at the World Cup in Qatar, has joined the champions until 2027 and says he's delighted to have made the move to Glasgow. Here's Ronnie Charters.
He walked out at the World Cup for Canada. Now Alistair Johnston is getting his first taste of walking out at Celtic Park. The right-back has signed a 5-year deal with Ange Postecoglou's side, having joined from Montreal.
Oh, it's been hectic. I've tweeted about it a couple of times, actually, but it's no joke. The Celtic fans nearly broke my phone. Just the outpouring of love has been pretty crazy. That doubled up with participating in a World Cup at the same time was a really just crazy time in my life. But no, just super excited to get here. Everyone's been so warm and welcoming. Even in the town centre, just walking around, people are coming up and saying, "Congratulations, mate! You signed for the biggest club in the world." So it's been a pretty unique and special welcoming, I'd say.
Johnston is free to play for the Parkhead club when the transfer window opens on January the 1st. Ronnie Charters, STV News.
Leon King is set to sign a new contract with Rangers. The central defender, who has made 19 appearances this season, is currently tied down until the summer of 2024. The new deal, which will be until 2026, is expected to be signed in the coming days. Rangers women's captain Catherine Hill has described lifting the League Cup as the proudest moment of her career and is determined to win more silverware. The Ibrox side defeated Hibernian 2-0 in the final at Tynecastle yesterday. Lizzie Arnott opened the scoring with this terrific strike. Kirsty Howitt doubled their advantage with 15 minutes remaining. So, delight for Malky Thompson's side after winning the League Cup for the first time.
Probably the best moment I've had in football, and it obviously just makes me want more moments like that. So the girls were brilliant today, and great feeling. Obviously Lizzie's finish kind of took all the nerves out, and then Kirsty coming on, she was fantastic when she came on, and that goal really settled the nerves and allowed us to see out the last 10 minutes.
It's really important that we still take that pride from getting to the final. I think it's still important to feel that and believe that we have got to a final, so it is something to take and keep going forward in the league and stuff. But I think with the history that the club have in winning cups, I think that's what hurts most.
Rugby and Edinburgh head coach Mike Blair says he's proud of his players. That's despite the narrow 30-26 defeat to Saracens in their opening Champions Cup match. The capital side hosts Castra this weekend.
This is a really strong Saracens team who are 9 from 9. And you could argue that we gave the game to them in certain ways. Really proud of what we did, but we also know that we've got to move on and we've got to make it right for next week, because Castle will come out after their loss.
That, folks, is all your sport tonight. Plenty of sports stories on our website, stv.tv/sport. I'll see you again tomorrow.
Get your fill of the action. STV Sports, sponsored by Papa John's Pizza.
Well, we know how bitterly cold it's been today, and there's no let up anytime soon. Here's Sean to tell us more.
It's looking like a chilly one. TUI sponsors STV Weather.
Well, the song in the bleak midwinter seems quite appropriate at the moment given the extreme low temperatures, but of course we've still got another week or so of autumn to come. But those temperatures down to about -5, -6 over the next couple of nights, and some extreme values again tonight and also on Thursday night. That'll be the coldest nights this week, some spots down to about -10 to possibly even -15. But you can see quite a big rise in overnight temperatures into the start of next week. So Monday next week we could be looking overnight temperatures of +3, so a huge rise from where we are at the moment, and daytime temperatures, wait for it, some of our computer models going for +10 to +12, 1254 in Fahrenheit. Pretty crazy when the temperatures are so low just now. So a big swing into next week to milder air, but I'm not writing off a white Christmas just yet because it looks like colder weather could come back next week again, but hopefully not quite as severe as the stuff we've got just now. But tonight, clear, cold, frosty night to come. Those extremely low temperatures, just the risk of a few showers affecting western parts. If we do see those showers, of course that'll give us the risk of icy patches. Then into tomorrow, dry, fine, sunny for most of us, although we could just see a few little wintry showers the further east we go. But for most of us in that northerly, we still hang on to those lovely, crisp, sunny days. Temperatures barely above freezing, and those extremely low temperatures by night. Bye-bye.
TUI sponsors STV Weather.
And finally from us, a 6-year-old boy has been recognised for his bravery after phoning 999 when his mum passed out at home.
Yes, Benji Garrett Henvey was invited to the Brave at Heart Awards last month, and Selena Jackson went along to meet him.
The First Minister of Scotland. It is honoured to present this award to Benjamin Garrett Henvey.
A bravery awards for 6-year-old Benji. He called an ambulance for his mum after she fell unconscious earlier this year while 7 months pregnant.
When they picked up the phone, the first thing they said was, what was happening? So I said that, and what was your address? I said my mum isn't feeling well at all. I was extremely scared what was happening.
It turned out Becky had COVID. After 3 days in hospital, she and baby Brodie made a full recovery.
I'd drummed it into him beforehand, because it was always just me and him, just in case anything did happen, this is the number you phone. I was really, really over, but too emotional, really overwhelmed, but I was so proud.
And the paramedic who responded to Benji's call nominated him for a Brave at Heart award.
Very exciting.
What did you wear?
I wore the suit.
That's right.
I feel very, very like James Bond.
Step aside 007, there's a new hero in town. Selena Jackson, STV News.
Oh, and looking super smart in his wee shirt and tie.
So cute. That's all from us for tonight. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.